On the screen, Cynthia explained gently, "We're both focused on our careers right now and have no time for a wedding ceremony." The host laughed as well. "That's true. Everyone knows you've been together with Mr. Morrison for more than 5 years. Your feelings for each other run deep and sincere." Bethan's fingers tightened around the trolley handle. 6 years ago, in the will that they forged, she requested Brettley to marry Cynthia and take care of her forever. That was how they got engaged, openly and honestly. Bethan's heart ached against her will at the thought. Even though they betrayed her, they were shameless enough to make up such a noble-sounding excuse whilst she had to live while she hid her real name and identity. She was so lost in her thoughts that the trolley she pushed had crashed against someone.
I'm sorry.
She raised her head, but before she could finish her sentence, the last word died in her throat. The man in front of her was tall, handsome, dignified, but somewhat arrogant. It had been 6 years since she last saw him. He seemed even colder and yet more mature and manly. Her fingers that held the trolley's handle started to turn white. She never expected to run into him the moment she returned home. Brettley looked at her coldly out of the corners of his eyes. "Don't you keep your eyes on the road?" 6 years ago, the wounds on her face were severely infected because of her fall into the sea during the accident, growing inflamed and bubbling pus. She had no choice but to accept plastic surgery on her face. Her face had become near perfect, designed in the hands of the best plastic surgeons. Putting Brettley aside, she even sat before the mirror for hours every day, in the first 2 years after the plastic surgery, to make sure the face looking back at her was truly hers.
I'm sorry.
Bethan sucked in a deep breath and steadied her raging emotions. "Mr. Morrison, I was too immersed in your fiancé's interview and accidentally knocked into you." The man furrowed his eyebrows. "You recognize me? You're so famous. How could I not?" Bethan smiled slightly. "To fulfill your promise to your ex-wife, you agreed to take care of her sister forever." This became a much-told story in Banyan City. Brettley's eyes darkened slightly. From afar, he had seen her from the back. This woman, from her figure, to the way she walked, and to her habit of running her fingers through her hair, was the exact same as Bethan's. That was why he had approached her unconsciously. He wanted to take a look at her face, but it seemed this woman just had a similar figure as hers. It was not just her face and her voice. Even her personality was completely different. Bethan used to be gentle and obedient. She would not talk like that. "Brettley." Cynthia's feminine lilt rang out behind him.